I played every mode on Blackwell Fields to see if everyone's right about this map. For those of you that want a quick answer, it's orange and friendly to snipers, while unbalanced on some game modes. For the rest of you, let's talk about each game mode and see if this map is good or bad, and most importantly, why. Oh yeah, and you might learn a thing or two about how to play each mode on this map as well. People have been saying this map is a barren sniper's paradise, and after playing all of the modes on this map, I don't think that's true. Let's break down this map with a little more detail than a simple "it sucks," because if you've seen any of my videos, you know I think it's always about perspective. Let's start off with something that affects every game mode. Then we will move on to the smaller modes and escalate from there. Which, by the way, is not offered on this map. Aesthetics are personal, and regardless of your favorite color, the orange theme doesn't make this map good or bad at all. I think it has a color feature that separates it from the other maps. Modern gaming graphics are crazy, and this map does an amazing job showing that off. You get the awesome golden hour glow at the top of the hills and when in direct sunlight, but on the lower sections of the map, it's clearly limited to the sky. It's pretty interesting to see how the colors on the surface of things change based on the angle and the sunlight. This map is probably the most intense show of light this game has to offer so far. It's crazy how people complain about maps being similar and they all suck, yet don't appreciate the differences between them even when it's clearly presented as much as it is on this map. Orange is not my favorite color. Heck, it's probably on the bottom end of my list, and the sun can be intrusive when looking up over the hills in some game modes, but that's how looking at the sun works, so A for realism. The small map modes in this game are rather strange. There are multiple layouts for these game modes. You get Stockpile for Squad Deathmatch and King of the Hill, which for you COD guys is basically Hardpoint. The second layout is one that you encounter more frequently, which is Misfire. This is basically the 8-point in Conquest and Breakthrough, which we'll go over later on. For now, Team Deathmatch and Domination, which are played on this version of the map, and it's pretty one-sided. After playing over 20 rounds of Team Deathmatch on this map against different enemies, sniping, assault, medic, and even engineer in Team Deathmatch, this map has bad flow for the defending side or the NATO side. The team that starts by the bus, which is the Pax Armada, basically always wins if the team is halfway decent. Your best chance of winning if you're NATO is to flip the spawns, which can be kind of difficult. If you don't, you basically just lose every time. So what happens here is the pack side is at a slight elevation with plenty of cover. In this gameplay, I'm sniping basically in the middle of the map and can cover every single passage to the semi-truck. The far left, the middle alley, the container, which is the mid right, and if the team creeps up past the semi-truck, you can even get to the street side, all while covered by tires or a shipping container. All you have to do is duck down and you cannot get shot from the opposing roof. This is the middle of the map. NATO cannot really get to you if you're waiting for them. They have to sneak past you on either side and come around. There is not a point like this on the NATO side at all. You can climb the containers for some vantage points. You simply get no cover unless your medic supplies one. That's just one location for the PAX side. As a sniper, you can sit on the back on the rocks and shoot the entire right side, or even the forklift, and get a clear shot at elevated targets. In this game, penetration is pretty realistic. People are not shooting through metal very easily, so you are exposed, but not really. From the NATO side, you get the far back left of the street to counter snipers, but there just isn't much cover. You're open and peeking around a vehicle, leaving your body as exposed as you are comfortable with leaning out. Or atop the building, which only has one piece of cover that gets regularly blown up. The key to winning as NATO is to push, 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 and flip the spawns. Domination suffers from the same issues that Team Deathmatch does on Misfire, but since it's Domination, it has defined lines. NATO is basically more exposed, and the game feels like run to B, shoot, die, run to B, shoot, die. I will say that on Domination, once you get to the B point from the NATO side, you can tuck under the truck and defend against the PAX side by creeping under the semi where the back tires are, and you can control the B objective fairly nicely from here until someone pays attention and takes you out. If you can take B from the beginning of Domination, it's less one-sided than TDM, but Pax still has the better angles. Now, Stockpile, which holds Squad Deathmatch and King of the Hill. This is the third sector in Rush and Breakthrough, or the F objective in Conquest, the warehouse container area. This section of the map is a much better, more open area. It has a lot of cover. Each team can move around the map and not be dominated by a single sniper in the back. Both of these modes, although vastly different, I'm grouping them together because they have relatively the same flow. With King of the Hill, you have 5 alternating objectives, which you have to fight to stay on the longest. This game mode moves around the map in a random fashion, which strangely enough actually happens in Squad Deathmatch as well. Since there are multiple squads moving around as a group, you end up running into a few people clumped together as you do when a team is headed to an objective in King of the Hill. Since these game modes don't have definitive sides, everyone can use all the cover at some point as needed. There are 2 open alleys in the middle, with the outside alley on either side of the warehouse and next to the office containers. Everything has cover here, and there are 2 roofs, so no one sniper can take over the map. This section is far more balanced, and I think Team Deathmatch and Domination should be played here as well. It has a lot less of the meat grinder feel, with multiple off angles to basically get to any one point. If I have to say something negative about this section, looking towards the sun kind of sucks here. You have to approach every gunfight from basically an angle, but that's fine. You don't want to be standing in the middle of the street anyways. Oh yeah, there's also Strike Point. Now for the good stuff that people actually play Battlefield for. Let's talk Rush. Playing Rush with a lot less players than Breakthrough, you notice how important a good sniper is. 1 sniper is basically required to win on this map. 2 can dominate, but there is a limit. On defense, keeping the cavalry back like me and my guy Pigs here are doing is the bread and butter of this mode. But as I mentioned, it self-balances. The bread and butter is that 1 or 2 snipers can keep enemies off the objective long enough for the front line to defuse. There isn't much that can be done when players are in the house, but players running down the hill must be taken out when possible. It's key to every battle here. Even Breakthrough, but with Breakthrough you need 3 or 4 snipers to keep up, but more on that later. This is the only map in Battlefield where snipers are kind of required, and that's not a bad thing. You need to play this map as it's designed. Snipers need to stay back and pick people off. Keep the objective light for the front line. The front line, keep your head down and stay behind a rock. Move from cover to cover like you should be doing anyways. If you run and gun with no remorse, you will get punished here. Again, as you should. When attacking, if the defending team does not have a sniper, you basically just run through them. In this section of clip, I'm basically standing where I shot 5 or 6 people on defense in the previous clip, and no one was there to take us out, and the result was vastly different. This team did not have a sniper and lost. Look, I don't enjoy sniping, I don't do it often, but this map makes it fun. It's a proper map for balanced gameplay. It has vehicles, snipers holding people back, and if you have too many snipers, it self-balances. No one is there to take or defend the objectives. You need the right amount, but when it's there and it's balanced, it's freaking good. Standing off with 2 snipers on each side is a tough match where no one really dominates. And that continues as you move to the second set of MCOMs. This is moving towards the D objective in Conquest or the second sector in Breakthrough. It's pretty interesting because you have an objective in a valley with hills on either side. This is well balanced. The attacking team has rocks and the lower part of the valley for cover, and is not visible from the defending side's hills. And the defending side has containers, fences, and objects blocking the front line for their infantry. Both snipers are able to peek, shoot, and get back to cover, but can still be shot from the front line infantry if you push too far. This is usually won by the attacking side if they make it this far, but a lot of tickets bleed right here. The next sector is a pair of MCOMs over the hill in the Stockpile section of map from Squad Deathmatch and King of the Hill, which now includes the hill to descend on. The defending team is at a pretty decent disadvantage here due to elevation. Snipers can clear the lower ground for the attackers while infantry breaks into the building and defenders only really have a window and supply boxes to hide behind. The next section still has the issues from King of the Hill, but again, fairly balanced with each team standing off with even cover on either side of the building and plenty of rubble on the inside to duck under cover, with the outside MCOM needing to be cleared from enemies coming in either direction and held off as any outside objective needs to be. Breakthrough plays very similar, with an obvious increase in player count and slight variation to the intro. Where Rush started at the Conquest B house, Breakthrough starts to the right at Conquest A. Playing this map was actually pretty interesting for the first time when it originally came out. Getting past the first objective before you realize you can go left over the hill made this map feel like a meat grinder and basically impossible to push back the defenders. Anyone playing this on the first day probably was right about that, but now they are very wrong. With the expansion of the left side, it allows attackers to fully flank past the objective and give a wider round on the right side, spreading the defenders just enough to make this not a meat grinder and very possible to move past the defenders. On defense, it's a little trickier to defend. If you have a good team that doesn't bunch up in the middle with 2 or 3 good snipers keeping the hill clear, it's okay. It still needs to be heavily defended on the hill side, the right side, but you can basically be attacked from 3 directions. Eventually the middle will break, but all of those unbalanced spots from Team Deathmatch that the PAX side gets are not used very much in Breakthrough because the hill is now open on either side, so the team is a lot more spread out. The defenders are also a little bit further forward than on Team Deathmatch, so all of the imbalances are pretty much gone in this first sector when we're talking about the original section that was in Team Deathmatch. The second objective is where the snipers come into play, as they should. It's a perfect spot. You can peek your head, take out a few, and then head back. The defenders have a hill to stay back on as well, and with only one objective in the valley, it's pretty interesting. The rest plays out the same as it did in Rush. Attackers have the lower valley to stay clear from snipers on the defending hill, and the defenders hide behind all of the objectives, containers, and all of the rubble kind of sitting behind the objective. Just don't stick your head out. This is one of the few maps with 3 final objectives, so it spreads the teams thin. Most attackers go left towards A over the hill, but the right flank to B is easy and gets your team spawning right next to the other objectives. When players flank right, it's usually a whole different ball game, as most defenders stay next to the hill guarding A until someone basically takes B for free. This is not an option in Rush, but in Breakthrough, flank right. You will either get an open passage and take B easily, or distract enough players to let the rest of your team push A. On the defending side, this is where those multiple snipers come into play. Infantry can't push into the open, so defending snipers need to be on the far left by the spawn, blocking those trying to get to B, or stopping people from coming over the hill. This funnels all of the attackers towards the A side, which most of your team's infantry is blocking. If you have a couple of good snipers holding either defenders or attackers back, like I said, again, 2 or 3, and infantry that's pushing the front lines and keeping their heads low, this is a pretty balanced game mode, especially in the last section, with a lot of those finishing for losses for the attacking team, and sometimes, obviously, you lose as the defenders. Conquest. Again, there's no escalation. Yes, Sniper's Paradise. Kind of. But no one calls all the other maps Infantry Paradise. I don't snipe, and I don't think having a map for snipers to enjoy open hills is a bad thing. Let the snipers have a map. The same way people want tank-heavy maps and air-heavy maps, this adds nuance to the game and variety. It's not terrible either. You can stay tucked behind cover if you want to avoid the snipers, but this is one of the only maps where recon can actually shine and make a very impactful difference. They can basically hold down D and not need much in terms of infantry, so you're free to secure other locations. Playing this map is interesting because yes, a good group of snipers can hold down D like no one's business, but one objective doesn't win a game. C ends up being the middle point in a sense, since it's open for tanks and infantry to fight it out, with the occasional sniper from E peeking their head if you get a little too wide around the C objective. After playing like 10 rounds of Conquest back to back, I don't think this is a very one-sided or unbalanced mode on this map. I think it's the Conquest experience we were looking for. The gimme flags provide infantry gameplay with armor to boot. The center flags, which are fought over the whole match, all have cover from tanks and other infantry. The only real disadvantage here is the airspace. There's basically nothing to hide under from a good pilot, and the occasional bombing run will take you out if you're aggressively on the objective. But there are many ground vehicles that can take them out, so it's not that bad, unless your ground vehicle operator sucks. Sometimes you just have to do it yourself. Overall, as a package, this map offers better large mode play than it does small mode play. Honestly, if they move the team deathmatch and domination to a different section, maybe around the C flag in combination, or even stockpile, it offers a much better all-around experience. I think people are hating on this map because they don't like orange or getting sniped in the face. But if you play your round correctly, there's a perfect way to move around this and not have any issue. Well, maybe the sunset. This map is Battlefield. It's open, it has a slower engagement than most of the other maps, it has long lines of sight and close quarters encounter, ground and air vehicles, all evenly spaced. It's a good map that brings diversity and change to the map rotation. If you want to see other map breakdowns like this, give this video a like and sub for more Battlefield content just like this video right here.